For our chairs, for our red chairs, and then thank God for that. Let's thank the Lord dahil katabi natin yung katabi natin ngayon. We have someone to talk to, not to talk to, but to be with today as we listen to the Word of God. Now, okay, noong isang linggo, not last week, but 3 weeks ago, I think I said na starting 2 weeks ago, my commitment with you is to flash our church vision every Sunday. Ito yung tumatak sa ating mga isihan. So let's see if we can answer at fill in the blanks question for today. Sabay-sabay nga tayo. From 2 hanggang nations. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. To be a warm and vibrant community of Filipino disciples engaged in reaching the nations. So tama ba, Ate Risa? Is it to be what? To be a warm. Okay, so then after that, to be a warm environment. So hanggang December, hanggang yung logo na lang ang matira, we will try to put this not just on our base but on our hearts as well. So this is our vision. This is what our church wants to become. We want to become a warm and vibrant community of Filipino disciples engaged in reaching the nations. So this is what we want to become. And few nights ago, while I was preparing for this message, parang diba, kakatapos lang ng 2015. And then, diba, every time may matatapos, yung mga katapusan ng mga event, of course, you're happy that it's done. Pero minsan parang malungkot ka rin na natapos na. Parang halimbawa, yung sa graduation. Matandaan niyo pa ba yung nag-graduate kayo nung high school or nung college? And parang, di ba parang malungkot yung time na yun na kumakanta kayo ng graduation song, and then after na, alam mo na yun na yung last day na magkakasama kayo. And then after that, kanya-kanya na kayo ng mga buhay. Yung iba nag-buntis na, yung iba magka-college, yung iba parang ayaw ng mag-college. So, we all have, parang that's the point na tapos na, and then malungkot siya. Ang isa pa yung sa trabaho, when you're at work, and then napamahal ka na sa boss mo, o napamahal ka na sa mga inaalagaan mo, and then lilipat ka, parang medyo malungkot yun. You realize that it's hard na katapusan na ng aking contract. Yung iba masaya na katapusan na ng contract. Pero but if you had a great moment with your employer or with your company, you're sad that you're leaving. Or halimbawa katapusan na inyong love life. So malungkot din yun. Tinatapos ko na, mga ganyan. Oo. Yun kung may tatapusin. Parang ganyan. Pero malungkot yung minsan na tinatapos ko ng ating relationship. Sabi ng isa, nagkaroon pala tayo. Pero malungkot yun. Malungkot na ngayon parang tatapusin. There was never an us. Sabi ng gano'n. Pero malungkot siya. There was never an us. Sabi nga ni Coco Martin, MMFF. Gano'n. So, parang gano'n. So, every ending is sad. Diba? But I came across with this quote, na if flash na Risa now, na isabi doon, what appears to be the end may be really a new beginning. Do you agree with that? Na sometimes you thought it's the end, no? Pero that seems to be a beginning of something beautiful. Akala mo malungkot na, akala mo katapusan na, and then after a while you realize, this is a good start after all. So what appears to be the end may really be a new beginning. And sabi natin isang linggo, di ba, na all of us, we want to have a fresh start at some point. A fresh start in our career, a fresh start in our love life, a fresh start in our family. So gusto natin ng bagong simula, a new beginning for all of us. And the book of Genesis, this is about beginnings. That's why we will talk about this for the whole year. We think that the book of Genesis is so important in the book of the Bible because it's the start of everything else. So the question is this, why study the book of Genesis? Why do we need to focus on this for the whole year? Why is it important to me as a Christian? Ngayon na ako ay tatrabaho sa Singapore, now that I'm a new Christian or I'm an old Christian, what is the role of Genesis in my life? Bakit ito kailangan pag-aralan? So today, we will see that everything in the Bible, Genesis to Revelation, lahat ng Bible story, they all hang in Genesis. In other words, it will be very hard to understand yung stories in the Bible if we don't understand the book of Genesis. So, although of course we can, but knowing the book of Genesis makes it easier for us to understand what the stories of the Bible are all about. So, I'm asking you now, are you ready to join me in this journey in Genesis?
Yes.
So, ito gagawin natin for the whole year. Now, the word Genesis in Hebrew, it literally means beginning. So, ang meaning ng Genesis ay beginning. And typically, di ba ang ginagawa natin sa, ako, I do it this way sometimes, or dati most of the time. What I do, I pick up every story in the Bible and see what this means in my life. For example, let's say, okay, Adam and Eve, ano yan, how to avoid temptation. Ito, Cain and Abel, okay, how to become a good brother. Ito, Joseph the Dreamer, ito, how to save money or how to save my possessions. Now, although these lessons are good for our lives, ano po, but it's very important for us to look at these stories in the light of the whole story. Kumbaga, parang when we read Adam and Eve, for example, we ask ourselves, ba't kaya ito nasa Genesis? Ano bang buong story ng Genesis? Why is Adam and Eve right there? Para siyang puzzle, parang piece of puzzle na ganito. Halimbawa, nakita niyo ito. Yan. So parang, okay, big, and then parang maganda naman pink ang lips, ganyan. Parang, looking at that alone, parang ano siya, okay, maganda yung lips, okay. Yung babo medyo maigsi, okay, yung cheeks medyo maganda. So looking at the piece of that puzzle, it looks good. It makes sense. But if we look, although it may be true, it will make sense all the more if we look at this piece of puzzle in light of the whole picture. Yan naman pala picture na. So, yung maliit na lips na pala yun, maganda pala talaga. So, now instead of looking at the lips alone, diba? Ngayon, titignan mo na siya in light of the whole picture. Nakaganyan naman pala yung kinuhanan, kaya pala ganyan yung lips. So, di ba, we can interpret a piece of a puzzle, but it will make more sense if we look at it at the whole picture. Kung baga pag teleserye, di ba, pag nasa teleserye, pag magkaroon ko nga ako sa'yo, ba't kaya, sinampal ni Amor sa Eduardo? Ang pala yun. If looking at it in that story alone, medyo hindi mo mag-guess mo. Pero pag alam mo na yung buong story na, kasi kikinapin niya ni Claudia Mama, kasi si Ina, kaya nagbili na ng kamote, mga gano'n. Now you know, because you know the whole story. Because you know the whole story, now you know why there is a certain scene doon sa teleserye. So yun yung gusto natin mangyari dito sa Book of Genesis. We want to know what is the story, what is the whole book all about. Para pag inisa-isa natin yung mga story, we know why Adam and Eve is here, why Joseph is here, why Lamech is there, why Melchizedek, ba't may mga names na ganito, ba't may mga genealogy na ganyan. So we will look at these stories in light of the whole book. So ano ba purpose in Genesis? Why is it written? What is the author's point? Why is it there all along? So yun yung pag-aaralan natin for the whole year, or even for today. So, the book of Genesis is not here, but it's divided into two parts. So yung first part ng book of Genesis is from Genesis chapter 1 to Genesis chapter 11. Ito yung unang part ng... How many of you have read kahit konting part lang ng book of Genesis? Anybody na nakakapagsimula? Okay, so yung part 1, yung 1 to 11, that is the first part. It talks about God and the creation of humanity. Kung saan ba tayo nagaling, kung saan tayo nagsimula. Now, the second half of the book, in chapter 12 to chapter 15, it talks about Abraham and his family. So, yung isang kalahati, lahat yung about Abraham and his family. Now, in between these two parts, sa gitna niyan, that is where the message could be found. In between chapter 1 to 11 and 10 to 15, merong isang gitna dyan na it talks about what the message of Genesis is all about. Now, let's look at Genesis 1 to 11 first for now. So in 1 to 11, it all started when God created everything. Now, usually, di ba yung sa creation part, this is where the debate usually is happening. Ito yung sobrang nagtatalo mga tao. Big Bang ba yan? Or is it evolution? Or is Adam and Eve, ano ba itsura nila nung kinilikha sila? Kamukha ba silang unggoy? O kamukha ba sila ng katabi ko ngayon? So, ano ba itsura ni Adam and Eve at that time? So, this is where all the debates are coming from. But what the Bible says was, God, from dark and chaos, ito yung pinagaling, dark, chaos, parang walang form. God, the situation is so bad, God turned it into something. God turned it into a beautiful garden, which is a really good garden. In fact, in this chapter, God mentioned the word good 7 times din sa kanyang creation. Diba? Sabi ni God na, when He created the light, sabi ni God, it is good. When He created the ocean, sabi niya, it is good. When He created the plants, sabi ni God, it is good. When He created the God ng animals, sabi niya, it is good. When He created the God ng katabi mo, sabi ni God, it is good. Very good. So, sabi ni God, sabi ni God, good lahat. So, maganda yung creation ni God at the time. So, that's where the word good came from, based on His creation. And along this verse, this is where we meet the first human characters, which are Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve, the first human characters in the Bible. Now, the word Adam, it means humanity, and the word Eve, it means man. Ngayon, sabi dyan sa passage na yan, God created human, Adam and Eve, in His own image. God created them in His own image. Ibig sabihin, the purpose of Adam and Eve is to reflect yung characters ni God. To reflect that God is good, yung goodness ni God, yung creativity ni God, yung kanyang love, yung kanyang patience. So, God created Adam and Eve. Para pag nakita si Adam and Eve ng mga creation, sabihin ng mga creation, ito pala yung itsura ng God. Na si God pala loving pala siya. Si God patient pala siya. Si God pala siya, creative pala siya. So, yun yung purpose nila dalawa, to reflect. Parang mirror, na pag nakita mo sila, ito yung reflection ni God sa ating buhay. And then God told them to, sige, pagyamanin niyo yung creation ko. You, make the land flourish, pagandahin ng creation. But, God gave them a moral choice. Na, okay, sige, gawin niyo yung palakihin niyo yung mundo, flourish it, but I'm gonna make the choice to do it on how you're gonna do it. Bahala kayo kung gusto niyong gawin. That's why there is a tree called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Sabi nila, yan daw yung tawag dyan ay apple tree. But it's not an apple tree. It's sabi nila, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God said to them, do not eat of the fruit of this tree or you will die. Now, if you remember, di ba, nung kinreate ni God ang world and universe, sabi ni God, it is good. So in other words, God is the one who can perfectly define what is good and what is bad. Diba? Siya yung may alam nun. He can perfectly define what is good and what is bad. That's why this tree of knowledge of good and evil, this represents a choice sa human, kay Adam and Eve. Parang ang choice nila, parang God is telling them, will you trust God's definition of good and evil? So God is telling them, kaya niyo ba akong pagtiwalaan na when I say it's good, it's good. When I say it's bad, it's bad. Do not eat that. It's bad. Now, will they trust God it is bad? And we know what happened. Adam and Eve, it's like when they ate the fruit, it's like Adam and Eve was saying, Lord, I cannot trust your definition. I want to define good and bad by myself. So we know what happened. They ate the fruit, and that is where the biblical definition of sin came about. Sin means the desire to do whatever you want. Kahit na ayaw ni God. God doesn't want it, I'm gonna do it anyway. Alam ko mali ito, pero gusto kong gawin hindi gagawin ito. Hindi pwede kainin, gusto kong kainin, igutom ako hindi kakainin. Love ko hindi I will love. Parang sin started here when God said no, and yet man said yes. The problem is, whenever we define what is good and what is bad, medyo kagulo, medyo medyo pangit tayo mag-define kung anong tama at kung ano ang mali. So from this chapter forward, doon na nagsimula na maging magulo ang creation ni God that is meant to be very good. It became really bad. It started to spiral down because of sin. So what happened was this. So there was Adam and Eve in here. Adam and Eve, they were naked. Noong umpisa, di ba parang ano sila yung wala lang. Parang okay na sana na punta sa church and then, oh brother, ganun. So okay na sila na walang mali siya, ganyan. And then when they ate the fruit, that's where they start to become shy. Kasi nga parang, they start to define what is good and what is bad for themselves. For them, ako parang, good ba ito, bad ba ito, baka bad ito, nahihiya na sila. And then, there's a story that after that, another story of temptation came between Cain and Abel. Mga anak naman nila. Now Cain, we know the story, he got jealous with Abel. He got tempted to kill him and eventually he killed Abel. Now, try to see, no? Nung una, si Adam and Eve, ang sin nila ay kumain lang ng fruit. Dito ang sin nila, patayan na. So, see the progression of sin, no? Na ito lang ang sin dati, ngayon, ganito na siya kagabi. And then there's this another guy, another story whose name is Lamech. Ito naman si Lamech, balik lang kami. Wala ka lang Lamech. Pero kunyari may Lamech dyan. Can you move forward pa? Isa pa. Hindi, balik na. Isa pa. Iyan na. Diyan na lang tayo. Si Lamech naman, sabi sa Bible, ang definition sa kanya, after Cain and Abel, Lamech came up, and si Lamech, he was the first guy in the Bible na maraming asawa. And then he made them his slaves. And then, while he's bringing his wives, he's singing a song. Ang song ni Lamech ganito, na sabi niya, masama pa ako kay Cain, and I'm proud of it. So that's his song. So imagine na, he's singing it in a proud way na mas masama pa ako dun sa aking tinunod na si Cain. So from Adam and Eve, who's eating their fruit, Cain and Abel na pinatay niya kapatid niya, itong si Lamech, mas masama pa daw siya kay Cain, at proud na proud pa siya doon. So imagine yung palala yung situation ng tao. And then after that one, that's where God decided to wipe out the world using a flood. Dito na dumating, this is the time when Noah came into the picture. Now, usually, itong Noah's story, itong the flood story, usually ang interpretation dito na kung si God galit na galit dito, we usually say na God was really mad at that time. But we miss the point that in the beginning of the story, in the beginning of the story, it actually begins with God being very sad. He was so sad that his creation turned out to be this way. That's why in his goodness, he decided to wipe out or to wash the whole world in order to preserve or to save the small goodness that is remaining in the world. And that is the family of Noah and also the other animals. So, ngayon, ang role naman ni Noah's role at that time was this. Ang calling Noah at that time, God saved him in order that through Noah's family, God can rebuild the humanity again. Na mag-start sa simula. The thing that Adam and Eve failed to do, God wanted Noah to do. Diba sabi ni God kay Adam, sige, build the humanity through and be blessed. And then God said, no, hindi kaya. Sige, Noah, ikaw ang gumawa. You do what I wanted Adam to do. So, nung umpisa, okay, dahil sila, pamilya sila, and they started doing things. But something happened with Noah after the flood. After the flood, he started to plant, merong story sa Bible na he planted a vineyard ng grapes, and then sobrang siyang nalasing. Nalasing si Noah, and then something happened between Noah and his son inside a tent that was very bad. Now, we will talk about this as we talk about Noah's story later on, but it was so bad that what God wanted Noah to do, to rebuild the humanity, Noah failed to do as well. So God wanted Adam to build humanity, Adam failed. God wanted Noah to rebuild humanity, and Noah failed as well. And after this, dumami ulit ang mga tao, things got even worse, and now the famous story of the Tower of Babel came after that. Ano naman itong Tower of Babel na ito? Ang story naman na ito, this is where humans started to use the technology of bricks. May mga brick na silang ginagamit. What they did, they built a city, and then within that city, they built this huge tower. Ang purpose ng tower na ito is for them to make a name for themselves at ma-reach na nila yung heavens. They want to reach God, and then they want to be God themselves. Imagine the progression of sin. Balikan natin. Adam and Eve, sila dalawa kumain na sila ng fruit, and then they sinned. And then their children, Cain and Abel, nagpatayan. And then Lamech, sabi Lamech, ay, mas matindi ako kay Cain, and I'm proud of it. And then after that, naging masama na ang mga tao, kailangan ng hugasan ni God. And then after that, nag-build naman sila ng tower, they want to become God. So, that's how human became really, really bad at that time. They became worse, just like what others would say. And all in this story, the question is, meron bang hope for humanity? From the garden, pababa, hanggang chapter 11, ang story ng tao. It became really bad. Is there a hope for humanity? And this is where Abraham came into the picture. Now, what Adam failed to do, what Noah failed to do, God wanted Abraham to continue. Abraham came to the picture. Ito na yung chapters 12 to 50. The second half of Genesis, where it talks about the family of Abraham. Now, kanina sabi natin na in the middle of the book of Genesis, that is where the message could be found. And in that part of itong part na ito ng Bible, ito nangyari after itong Tower of Babel. After the Tower of Babel, ni-scatter ni God ng mga tao. God scattered everybody kasi nga parang nag-build sila ng tower. They had one language at that time. God scattered them and gave them different languages. Like, hiwa-hiwalay sila. And then after that chapter, meron genealogy na na-mention. And then, the ending of that genealogy is a man named Abraham, also known as Abraham. So, si Abraham na yung lumabas sa ating story. And then, through Abraham, God gave him a promise. God made a promise or a covenant to Abraham. Sabi ni God, promise God to Abraham. But one portion of the promise that God told him is this. Sabi ni God to Abraham, I will bless you. And through your family, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. Sabi God to Abraham, sige Abraham, I'm going to choose you. I will bless you. I will bless your family. And through your family, all the nations of the earth will be blessed. In other words, parang sabi ni God na ang gulo na ng mundo, ang gulo na ng humanity. And what I want to do is to bring back all these people, pabalik doon sa original plan ko na i-bless ang mundo. Like yung plan ko kay Adam and Eve, I want to bring everybody there through your family. In other words, parang ito yung rescue plan ni God. His rescue plan na ibalik ang humanity, pabalik doon sa garden plan na i-bless ang mundo. And God said, sige Abraham, I will use you. I will use you. I'm going to enter a covenant with you. I'm going to give you a family. I will give you tons of children. And then through your children, all the nations will be blessed. That's why in chapter 12 to 50, yung second half of the book, these are all about Abraham's family. About Abraham in chapter 12, about Isaac in chapter 21, about Jacob in chapter 25, and about Jacob's sons in chapter 29 to 30. So, lahat ito, it talks about Abraham and his family at that time. Now, to each one of them, if you notice, may word of promise sa itaas. To each of them, God renewed God's promise to Abraham sa kanyang mga anak. Di ba sabi ni God kay Abraham, I will give you a family, I will bless you, and through your family, all the nations will be blessed. When Isaac was born, sabi nga kay Isaac, like what I said to Abraham, I will bless you and your family, and through your family, the nations will be blessed. And then, pinakat si Jacob, through your family, all the nations will be blessed. And then, nung sa kanyang 12 sons, ganun yung sinabi ni God. So, every generation, God was renewing His promises to them, reminding them na through your family, ibabalik ko yung mundo. Pabalik ko sa gusto kong mangyari kay Adam and Eve before. So that's why their family was very important at that time. And then, because of this promise, their family, we will call them later on Israelites, they became very, very special. But, minsan isipin natin na siguro, this will become a model family para sa ating model man, a model family. But if we will look at their story, one by one, in the next few Sundays, we would realize na for most of the time, their families are very dysfunctional. Their lives are very dysfunctional. They're very disobedient. And then, minsan kakulong ka, ano pa yung, ba't ka sila napili ni God na maging sa rescue plan, ba't sila napili ng Panginoon? But their family are very dysfunctional. Let's start with Abraham. Yung si Abraham, di ba, story ni God sa kanya, sige Abraham, I'm gonna give you a family. I will bless you a family. Now, yung si Abraham, di ba, ang tawag natin sa kanya is the father of faith. Kasi parang he's very faithful. But there is this part of his story na sila ni Sarah, the wife's name is Sarah, they went to a king. Punta sila sa king. Ito si Sarah ay mukhang Pia works back. Maganda. She's a beauty queen. Magandang babae. So si Abraham natakot. Baka magustuhan ka ng king. Pwede ba mag-pretend mo tayo magkapatid? At kapag gusto makipag-sex ka muna sa king para hindi ako patayin. Kung ikaw si Sarah, ano sasabihin mo? Kung ikaw kaya patayin ko, what would you feel? Di ba, pinapamigay ka ng asawa mo, then baka patayin siya. So, but that's what Abraham did. And he did not do it once, he did it twice. He did it twice in the same situation. Gusto niya ibigay si Sarah para lang hindi siya makapatay. And this is the man that God used to bless the nation. And on the other hand, ito naman si Sarah, she got impatient. Di ba sabi ni God sa kanila, I will give you a son. Parang Lord, ano petsa na, wala pa kaming anak. Ganyan. So ginawa ni Sarah, tinawag niya yung kanyang katulong. Sabi niya, oy Hagar, free ka ba sa Monday? Ganyan. Kasi si Abraham, kayo nga ay mag-saving muna para magkaanak ako. Ganyan. So si Hagar, okay, sige. Okay. So binigay ni Sarah ang helper niya kay Abraham, and then it gave birth to a lot of mistakes. So these mistakes that they commit. And then eventually they got very old. So tumanda na sila, ganyan sila, then it's very impossible for them to have a son. But miraculously, because God made a promise, I'm going to give you a son. And then Isaac came to the picture. Pinakita niya sa Isaac. Now, Isaac had two kids. Isaac had two kids, namely Esau and Jacob. So, can you say to me, say Esau? And then Jacob. So the eldest son is Esau, and then the younger son is Jacob. Sila ikambal. Ngayon, it seems okay. The family seems good, but something happened. Itong si Jacob, the second son, at that time, the culture was the first son will have the family inheritance. Siya yung kukuha ng mga mana, ganyan. Itong si Jacob, parang na gusto kang kunin yung mana. Gusto kang niya, parang masaya yung mana. So he devised a plan to deceive his brother and to deceive his father. And he did the deception in the time na si Isaac ay mamamatay na. Ano yung matanda na yung tatay, bulag na, nakuha pang lokohin. So that's how he devises. Imagine kung ikaw, yung nanay mo mamamatay na, tapos yung kapatid mo, pinapirma yung nanay mo ng kontrata, naipirmahan mo para sa iyong kabutihan. Yung pala para na yun sa kanyang mga dote, mga ganyan. That's what Jacob did to his father, to his brother Esau. And then he devised a plan to steal it. So that's how the story of Jacob turned about. And after that, Jacob, jump na tayo ng ilang chapters, Jacob had 12 sons. So, tabungin si Jacob, nabuhay siya, he became rich, and he had 12 sons. And it seems okay, ang problema, he had a favorite. A favorite niya, yung 11th son, which is Joseph. So Joseph became his favorite son. Binigyan ng colorful na jacket ganyan, as a gift. So in response, of course, anong nararamdaman ng mga 11 sons? They feel jealous, maingit, magagalit ang tatay namin and may favorite. So what happened? They devised a plan. They planned to kill Joseph. So they want to kill him, they plan to kill him, but of course it did not happen. Ang inisip na nila, huwag natin patayin. Ibenta na lang natin, and then kasi nakakaawa naman, kapatid natin yan. ibenta na lang natin siya as a slave to the Egyptian merchants. So that's what happened. Binenta tong si Joseph, he became a slave, and we know what happened, right? So he became imprisoned sa Egypt, and then something happened in his life na nagkaroon ng turnaround. From a prisoner, he became the second in command sa Egypt. Para siya naging, at that time it's called governor, but in our context, para siya naging vice president ng Egypt. Imagine from prisoner to being a vice president na siya yung second in command ng king of, or the pharaoh of Egypt at that time. So, while he became the second in command in Egypt, nagkaroon ng famine in the land. Nagkaroon ng kahirapan, walang makain ng mga tao. Ngayon, itong sina family nila Jacob, yung other na ng mga kapatid, nagutom, wala nang makain. They decided to go to Egypt to ask for food. And guess who's yung nakita nila sa Egypt? Nakita nila si Joseph, ako ng kapatid. But they didn't know. Kasi alam nila, binenta namin ito na slave. So baka patay na siguro yun. But tada, buhay pa ako. And then I became the governor of Egypt. Now, of course, si Joseph na at first siguro naisip na, time na para maghigante. But we know what happened. What happened was Joseph saved them. He saved them, binigyan ng pagkain, nabuhay sila, and then they live happily ever after. Yun ang ending ng story ni Joseph. And this is the family of Abraham. Imagine, nakita yung ang gulo, parang ang gulo ng kanilang buhay na from Abraham na pinapamigay ang asawa, to Isaac na niloko ni Jacob, to Jacob na nagkaroon favorite na anak, ng mga anak, ibinenta ang kapatid na gustong patayin. But this is the family that God said, I will bless you. And through your family, the nations will be blessed. And it's so interesting that Joseph said something towards the end of the book. Kasi sabi ng mga kapatid niya, naku, sorry Joseph, parang kami na-carried away kami sa aming emotion. We wanted to kill you. Parang pati na tayo. So, pasensya na. Pasensya na, gusto ko tang patayin. Parang gano'n, sorry. But Joseph said something very interesting. Ano sabi ni Joseph? In Genesis 50:20, sabi ni Joseph, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Ano sabi ni Joseph? You guys planned all of this for evil, but God planned it for good to save people's lives. It's like Joseph was saying, yeah, it was pretty bad. What you did to me was bad. But look at what happened. Now God turned out something bad into something beautiful. And now that I'm here, nabuhay kayo. Nabuhay ang buong Israel because I'm here right now. And to summarize the message of the whole book, from Abraham to Joseph, and from Abraham